So good evening, everyone. I'm your host, Sheila Seppi, and I want to welcome you to the Wish Alliance's Cosmic Conversations. Tonight, our guest speaker is Scott Werner. And before we start, I want to tell you just a little bit about Scott. Scott was born with the gift of higher dimensional sight, which means that he turns in to someone. He would not see them in the physical level, but he would see them on the multidimensional level. Scott has had near-death experiences when he was young. The first was when he was age 13, and then again at 20, which I'm hoping you're going to tell us all about and to share that. And each time he came back into consciousness, he returned with the inner knowing that his role in this life is to assist in the healing of humanity. And his gifts were enhanced to the degree that he intuitively sees into the physical body. So you would consider him also a medical medium. In 1986, at the age of 29, Scott was diagnosed with a malignant melanoma with multiple lesions on his spine and brain. And even though he was working on one of the best medical best medical facilities in the United States, he was given only 3 months to live. Unsatisfied with his prognosis, he went home and prayed for guidance. And I have so much more I could read about him, but I want Scott to tell us in his own words. And before you do, Scott, I just want to say I've known Scott for a number of years, and you guys are really blessed to listen to him tonight. He has so much to offer to the world in his healing, in his mentoring, in the stories that he shares. He's written several books, which I hope that you'll share with people. So at this time, Scott, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you and let you share everything you're here to share tonight. So thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, thank you for asking me to be here. And, it's interesting because I've learned so much since I met you. And I'm going to go back to the age of 13, because at age 13, that near-death experience, I actually didn't come back as the same person. And I was a walk-in. But, I've realized many things. When I went to Mount Shasta, I met Michael Jaco, who is a super soldier. And when he met me at Mount Shasta, he says, "I know you. You were in the same program I was." And I was like, "What?" And he says, "I've known you since you were 4 years old." And I was like, "What?" And then he had to explain to me all this stuff he knew about me. And he said that, we were put together at the age, he was taken at 3 years old and started training with the secret space programs. And apparently I was taken at the age of about 4 and started training. And he knew everything about me. And he said to me, they took us into the programs at age 13. And I'm like, whoa, this is interesting. And he said they used us and we've gone through 3 20 and backs. And I'm like, what? This was kind of new to me because I've been dealing with so many super soldiers in my life. My first one went to Vietnam, and man, he was a 6'7" redheaded guy that was big and burly. And I helped him get over his fibromyalgia because he felt so much shame, blame, and guilt for killing so many people. He developed viral illnesses that caused fibromyalgia within his body. And, when we're vibrating in shame, blame, and guilt, we get viruses really easy. But anyway, I started thinking about all of the dreams I had as a kid. And I would have all these dreams that I was out fighting in the universe, fighting different beings, on different planets, all this stuff when I was a little kid. And I thought I just had a vivid mind. And when Michael Jaco told me about this, and started explaining what had happened to us, they brought us back, to the age of 13, and then we'd have to go back again. And so the age of 13 was my magic hotspot. And the very last time I got brought back in, I was so messed up that I wasn't a very good kid. And, I just didn't know quite what to do with myself because I had all these ideas, all this stuff going on in my body and in my brain that I didn't understand. And me and my friends, we went up to Bryan Head, and I found Bryan Head's a ski resort above Cedar City where I was growing up. And I get skiing down the hills, and I find 2/5 of whiskey, and I wake up 3 days later, a totally different person. And I say this because I didn't want to do bad things anymore. I didn't want to, smoke or drink or do any of those kind of things anymore because I wasn't the same person. And came later to find out I had a new soul come in that was a walk-in and changed me. And literally, that's why I don't even remember much of the Secret Space Soldier stuff, because when this new soul came in, it had not been through all this crap. But I was so drawn to take care of super soldiers. And I know that was that aspect of me that wanted to help them because I had been so messed up. And, it's fascinating because, we're all in this process of learning who we truly are.
Mm-hmm.
And, having that walk-in come in, I was very scholarly. I went from being a B and a C student to being a straight A student. And I made better friends. I made better decisions. And it totally shifted my life because of this walk-in. And it actually became a very good life because I always did the right thing. I was thinking about the right stuff. I was, even before, when I was under 13, I always wanted to be with girls and do the bad stuff with girls. But when I was 13, I didn't want to do anything like that. And in fact, the girls wanted me, but I didn't want to mess with them. So it was kind of fascinating growing up as a teenager with this new soul in my body. And it was an Andromedan soul. And by Andromedan, we all know Andromedans don't have sex. They aren't sexual. And that's what really kind of shocked me was, I enjoyed the companionship. I enjoyed going to dances. I enjoyed doing all the things, but I had no desire to go have sex. And so I thought that was strange. I thought I was really weird, but I was an Andromedan. So, we just weren't attracted to that sort of thing. And so when I went on an LDS mission, when I was at 19 years old, I was called to serve in Puerto Rico and South Florida. And when I went there, I had all kinds of events happen. Oh, the other thing that's interesting is I actually had visions of other beings come in between the time 13 to, when I went on my mission. And I had an angel appear to me who told me to go ahead and join the Mormon church, but don't teach the doctrines of the church, just teach the gospel of Jesus. And so that's what I did. And even when I went on my mission, I didn't teach the teachings of the church. I taught the teachings of Jesus. And so it was fascinating to see how these things occurred. And now I have better understanding why I was such a naughty kid before age 13 And I was a better one. I drove my teachers nuts when I was in elementary. And by the time I got into middle school, I was still driving them nuts. And then I had my 13-year-old near-death experience in my walk-in, and I became, the teachers loved me because I helped them even quiet down the other kids. And I was like, all the kids kind of got angry at me because I was like the teacher's pet, because I'd always help them do their job. And so, we learn these things. And, believe it or not, I didn't learn this until, it's been 3 weeks ago that I met Michael Jacob. And so it's like, holy cow, we're all evolving. We're all learning about ourselves. We're learning new things about ourselves, which we didn't understand why we were the way we were. And now it's coming to us. So does anybody have any questions?
Scott, do you want to tell them about your missions trip? What happened?
Up at Mount Shasta?
At age 20. Oh, I want you to tell that too.
But at age 20. Yeah, when I got hit, I was riding my bike down the road in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and a car went out of his way to hit me, going about 60 miles an hour, threw me against a telephone pole. And I don't remember even hitting a telephone pole, to tell you the truth. But my companion told me about it later. I ended up laying on a gurney with a sheet over my head. I was like, what the heck? And so I threw the sheet off my head and scared the heck out of the nurses. They're like, oh, stop muerte. He was dead. He was dead. And I'm like, I'm not dead. Estoy vivo. Soy vivo, And it was interesting. They call up the doctor because they said, don't move. You got everything broken. And I'm standing up on the side of the gurney, and the doctor comes up and looks at me, goes, what the heck? And he re-examined me, and he asked me if he could take more x-rays. And he showed me the x-rays that I had when I had come in the hospital. I'd broken my right femur, my right humerus, and I was just boogered up something awful, and I had died. And so he had just, left me on the gurney and put a sheet over my head and went down to do the report on me. And so when he came back up and re-x-rayed me, he was like, es un milagro, it's a miracle that you're even alive. And it was interesting because, I was thinking about just becoming a seminary teacher, which is someone who just learns, all about the teachings of Jesus and the church, and then teaches them to the kids. And I knew that I was supposed to go to medical school. I knew that what I was supposed to do in my future. And I came back with what you call claircognizance. So I knew things. It was really interesting. And I would I would see somebody and I would know what was wrong with them. Or before I even went in a room when I was in medical school, I'd know what was wrong with people. And it really helped me during my medical education because I, always knew what the diagnosis was. I knew what was exactly wrong. I knew what they needed done. So it made me into a very eloquent diagnostician. And it was amazing because it made me into a medical intuitive, even though I didn't even know what a medical intuitive was. And so, I got going to college and did very well and got into 10 different medical schools and started my medical education. And when I started my medical education, I was married and had 2 kids. And we were not very well off, and it's expensive going to medical school. So all of the money I borrowed, I used to pay for my tuition, my books, and all of that. But I didn't have enough money left over to feed my kids and wife. So I ended up getting a job working for a law firm called Coburn, Crofts and Putzel, which was defending Monsanto Corporation over Agent Orange and dioxin lawsuits. And so I learned very early on that these chemicals cause damage to humans. And, they were having them spray the lines. They were linemen who were in this lawsuit of the telephone companies and electrical companies. And they were suing Monsanto because they were all getting cancer and disease, chronic fatigue, all kinds of problems. And we found, I did all the physical exams on them and did the interviews and compiled all of the information into binders. And literally there was 4,000 of them. So I continued this job all through medical school, making really good money for this law firm. And I was able to, work. I worked about 25 hours a week just doing that. And so I was making about $50 an hour, and you can do the math. I was making really good money, and I was able to take really good care of my family. So anyway, when I had my first delivery as a third year medical student, my first rotation was in the obstetric it was the obstetric floor at City Hospital in St. Louis, Missouri. And the intern at the time, AIDS had come out in the early 80s. And here I was, a third year medical student. Everybody was freaked out about this virus they knew nothing about. It was killing people. And they knew it was distributed through bodily fluids. And so, even on the obstetrical floor, they were freaked out because you're dealing with bodily fluids when you're doing deliveries and taking care of women in labor and doing surgeries and all the other things we're doing. In fact, medical students were drawing all the blood and running all the laboratories. And that was a whole other education. A lot of medical schools, the med students never get that kind of education, but we got a really good, well-rounded education because we were the doctors as medical students, and we were the phlebotomists, we were the lab assistants. I mean, it was crazy, but it was a fantastic way to learn. And the intern was going to show me about the delivery, and I had read about it the night before. I had never attended a delivery, even though I had 2 kids, because my wife had to have C-sections. And so the doctors wouldn't let the husbands in at that time because they didn't want to have to worry about them fainting in the surgery and that kind of stuff. And so it was quite an education. And this intern was my first delivery. He was going to show me how to do the delivery. And the woman grabbed a hold of him with her fingernails and literally tore his gown off and scratched big cuts into his arms with the fingernails, and then blew out her bag of waters all over him. And it freaked this poor guy out. I've never seen anybody freak out so bad. He just threw his hands in the air and he says, "She's yours." And I'm like, I haven't delivered anybody before. He says, "You'll do fine." So anyway, I'm down there with my catcher's mitt, ready to catch this baby. And the lady lets out another huge scream, and the baby just comes sliding out and slid right through my fingers, my gloves, and went down between my legs. I tried to catch it as best I could, but it ended up in the placenta, the products of conception bucket. And the mom's there looking over at me. Where's the baby? Is the baby okay? And I'm like, I picked the baby up out of the bucket and I clean it up. And I'm like, yeah, the baby's doing fine. And I set it up on the mom's belly. And, the blood, I clamped the cord and then saw that she had split open her perineum clear down to what we call a 4th-degree tear, which means it split right down through the rectum. And, I had kind of read about repairing this stuff the night before, but I'd never done it. But luckily, my grandmother taught me how to darn my socks and tie knots. And, I was a Boy Scout and learned how to tie knots. So I kind of knew how to sew, and I knew how to tie knots. And it took me 2 hours to sew her back up. And in the meantime, other women were delivering, and the intern just popped his head in and said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "She had a 4th degree." He says, "Oh, you'll fix it." And it was really an interesting experience. But what I found from that first experience, my first day on clinicals, was that, if I followed the light, if I followed my teachings and my knowledge, I would do the right thing. And I sewed her up good, and it took a long time, but I saw her back in the clinic 2 weeks later, and she had healed up really good. And everybody was really surprised because, here it was, my first delivery, and I didn't really know much of anything. But it's interesting because I tapped into knowledge that I had before. And, it's fascinating how we can do this in emergencies and in situations, because I totally enjoyed being a doctor and being put in precarious positions. And, I remember one time at St. Louis City Hospital, I was doing an ER. I was told to go down to the ER. This was another rotation. I think I was on internal medicine rotation. And I was down to get a patient down there. And a guy came in with a machine gun into the ER. And the doc next to me says, "Get out on the floor." And so I got out on the floor really quickly, and he started shooting up this guy that had been brought in for a gunshot wound and finished him off because they probably heard he was still alive. But that's the kind of excitement we had in St. Louis. It was an amazing place. We had training. It was like a combat zone a lot of times. And there was a lot of heroin addiction. There was a lot of prostitution. There was a lot of people just not doing the right things, and came to learn how to deal with these lower vibrations, these people who didn't know any better, weren't taught any better. And so it taught so much compassion for people who weren't brought up in a correct fashion. I felt very good because my parents were really good parents. I was kind of the hellion in the family. So until I was 13. And so what I came to find from Michael Jaco was brought all of the crap we'd been through back into our body when they brought us back. And I was 13 when they brought me back. And that's why I was such a naughty kid. He said, I brought all those trainings back with me that I had learned in the secret space program, and that the walk-in actually shifted my consciousness so much that I became a good person, a decent human being. And that's what we need to be. We need to be good, kind, loving, benevolent, compassionate human beings and assist others, because we don't know what their background is. We don't know what their childhood was or how they were or were not trained. And we cannot judge others, and we can't judge them against what we've been through. And we need to be more gentle and kind and loving. And that's so important right now. We need to use our God's love and incorporate God's love in. It was really interesting. Last November, I went down to a 5G conference down in Las Vegas. I was speaking 3 times, and I gave the first talk on the 24 strand DNA manifestation, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And then I gave a talk about Father Gabriel and the importance of helping the children grow up in better circumstances than what we're seeing currently. And then the third talk, I was told not to prepare anything. And it was really interesting. I was praying that night, okay, what am I supposed to talk about? And Jesus appeared to me. And this was the 6th time Jesus has appeared to me in my life. And he said to me, Scott, you're going to give a lecture about meditating in God's love and bringing God's love into your heart. And you breathe it in with God's love into your heart, and do it 3 times. As you breathe in, bring the love of God into your heart, and you hold it there and you release anything that isn't God's love. And then you breathe in again, bringing in God's love, release anything that isn't God's love, and then breathe in again. And then he said, go up in the throat chakra. And everything I speak with God's love, and I don't speak anything that isn't with God's love. And everything I hear with God's love. Hear anything that isn't with God's love. And you do that 3 times. Then you go up into your 3rd eye. All that I see is with God's love. And there's nothing that I see that isn't God's love. And do that 3 times. And then you go up into the mind. Everything I think about is about God's love. And there's nothing that I think about that isn't God's love. And do that 3 times. And then you go up into the mighty I am presence. My mighty I am presence always is in God's love, and I am in God's love. Do that 3 times. And then you go down into your solar plexus, and everything I feel with God's love. And nothing I feel that isn't God's love. You do that 3 times. Then you go down your creation center. Everything I create God's love. And there's nothing I create that isn't with God's love. Then you go down in root chakra with the earth, and I breathe it in, and everything that all my love is with the earth and with earth's love, God's love. Nothing that I have with the earth or the animals, or the plants, that isn't with God's love. Do that 3 times. And I went out and I taught it. And this super soldier that was at the conference, there was actually 6 of them there at the conference. I met all 6 of them. But the one I was most impressed with was he is a commander and flies an interstellar ship that's 2 miles long. And his name was, let me think here. I've met so many super soldiers, I have to get all their names straight. Johann Fritz was his name. And he said to me, Scott, I'm going to incorporate that meditation on my ship, because we need it. We're losing the war out there. He is a part of Solar Warden, which is the only not corporate military complex space force. And Solar Warden is the one trying to protect the Earth from all the bad guys. And they were actually losing up there. And so he said, we need something to help with our morale. And I think this is going to really help. So he started teaching all of his crew this meditation. And he telepathically communicated with me 3 months after he started. And he said, "You'll know it's me because you'll hear my voice in your head." And I heard his voice say, "Scott, thank you. We're starting to win. We anticipate where they're going to strike. We anticipate what they're going to shoot at us." And all this stuff because of God's love. They were being protected, and it enhanced their abilities so they would know how to do everything. And Michael Jaco talked about this in his talk, how when he learned to use God's love, and he actually spent 6 months on Venus, and Rob Potter's all about Venus because that's the place I speak at when I go to Mount Shasta. I speak at the Promise Revealed conference, and it was all about Venus. And they had Dr. Keller there talking about his books about he spent 3 months on Venus, wrote books about it. But Michael Jaco spent 6 months there learning about love. And he said it totally shifted his consciousness. He became a different person. In fact, I think Michael actually had a walk-in after being in Venus, because he says he was a totally different human being, because he was a super soldier. He was a killer. He was, this massive Hulk of a man. And when he came back from Venus, he was totally shifted in his consciousness. And so that love consciousness totally shifts us and changes us. And I'm very lucky to have been shifted and changed. I have no idea what would have become of me if I hadn't had a walk-in 13. No, I wouldn't have accomplished the good things that I'm trying to do now, that I've done throughout my life. Well, after 13 anyway. Any other questions?
Yeah, Scott, can you tell them a little bit about what happened to you during your medical practice and also at Mount Shasta with Hercules?
Oh, absolutely. In 1995, I started getting hit with the FDA. They were complaining because I got cancer at the age of 29, stage 4 malignant melanoma, and I cured it with herbs. It made me totally believe that herbs were good. And I wondered why we weren't taught to use herbs in medical school. And I came to find out, they don't make the system money because they can't do surgeries. They don't do chemo. They don't do radiation. And I was not doing any of that stuff. I was giving people herbs to get them well. And the FDA and CDC came after me because of what I was doing, because I wasn't making money for the hospital. And actually, the ones who complained was the hospital system here in Utah. Down in Arizona, they didn't care down there. Everybody was so busy, they didn't care. But up here in Utah, they wanted to make as much profit off the people as they could. And with me doing alternative medicine, I was having the hospital system lose about 10 to 20 million per year because I wasn't admitting patients and I wasn't using the hospital for everything. And I prayed to have the best herbalist on the planet come teach me about the herbs. And this guy showed up the next morning, and he said, "Scott, if you'll open a herb store in this room you have over here." I had a Medicare apparatus facility that was ran by another company that rented one of my rooms, and Medicare went through all these changes in 1996, and they moved out. And so I had this big empty room, empty space. And he says, "If you'll put a herb store in there, I'll teach you all about the herbs." And this guy was amazing. He went by the name of Steve Hennenfent, but I tell you, he knew more about herbs and humans and diseases than most medical people did. And he would tell me the origins and original stories, and he'd go into the past and use first person, as he'd tell me about these herbs and what they were used for and how they came about. And anyway, so I started using more and more herbs, and the hospital system just got irritated, and they sent the FDA after me. And first they tried to get me for medical insurance fraud, and I beat them in court because I, was diagnosing people and using different modalities. But they made standards of care, and they actually passed a law where it was illegal for doctors not to practice outside the standard of care and charge insurance companies. And so they came after me, and they tried to prove I was committing fraud, but I wasn't. I beat them in civil court, and then they came after me in criminal court. And I thought that was double jeopardy, but I came to find out, the government can do whatever the heck they want. And fought them for years trying to, and I even went through the whole sovereignty thing to bring me out from their grasp. And finally, they got so they just decided to come get me and take me away. So I was in chelating a bunch of patients. Well, before this, they closed down my business up in Cedar City. So I moved down to St. George, and I continued practicing, but very quietly. I didn't let the hospital down there know I was even there. And I was very quietly taking care of people and just charging cash for everything. And the feds came, the marshals, U.S. Marshals came, they cuffed me, shackled me, and threw me in a van and took me away to the prison system. And I asked them, what am I being charged with? These guys, they didn't know anything. All they knew was, marshals just do their job. They don't care about anything else. And so I ended up being in the system, and I was losing weight because the food there was absolutely horrible. President Bush had decreased the daily monies for food for the inmates from $6 a day down to $1.78 per day. And so we were being fed this rotted stuff that was just no good, and carbohydrates that was just causing fungus. And my cancer recurred when I was in prison, and I was dying. So I got on my knees and I prayed, and in came Jesus into my cell, and he told me, he said, Scott, you're going to have to lie to get out of here. I'm like, what do you mean lie? You tell people not to lie. And he says, well, you're going to have to just tell, a little small lie that you committed fraud, just admit to one count, and they want your medical license. So you're going to have to be willing to give that up. And they're going to want you to pay a huge fine on that one charge. And so anyway, I called my wife, Vicki, that day and told her, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get out of here. I'll admit to one count of fraud, and said everything Jesus told me to say. And the prosecuting attorney called me the next day because I didn't have a defending attorney. And he said, are you really willing to do this? We want you to admit to 156 counts of fraud and pay $3.5 million in penalties and fees and all the other stuff. And I said to him, dang well I didn't commit any fraud, but I'll admit to one count just to save your face. Because that's what they want. They want to win all their cases. In fact, when I went into court, they told me the feds win 99% of their cases because they have unlimited resources and all this stuff. And so anyway, but he did make a deal with the judge, a plea bargain where I admitted one count of insurance fraud, and it was a $38.52 charge. And they charged me $300,000 in penalties and fees and all this crap for that one charge. But But I was freed, and I was able to get out and get healed from the recurrence that went into my bone marrow and everything. So that was a good thing. Now, the other thing that you wanted me to talk about, Sheila?
Well, tell them where you were kept when you were in prison.
Oh, well, this was interesting.
There's a lot I want you to tell them.
I was shipped from prison to prison to prison. Literally, I'd probably spend 2 weeks, just long enough to get a hold of Vicky, get some money on my commissary so I could actually get some decent food, and then they'd ship me away, and I'd lose that money because I'd stay with that prison. And I was shipped from prison to prison to prison. And in one of the shipments, I was shipped to Oklahoma, flew into Denver, and then I was taken down in an elevator down into the city down below the Denver airport. And came to find out this thing was huge. It's a complete city, and it's got transportation. In fact, it's got tunnels connecting other cities in the United States. They put us on one of these bullet trains that must have gone 700-800 miles an hour. And we were shipped up, 2 of us were shipped up to SeaTac up in Seattle, and we made it up there in less than 2 hours. That was almost as fast as an airplane getting up there. Well, it was as fast as an airplane getting up there. But in all of these facilities, it's quite interesting. They're not what you would think they would be. You have people back in the 80s talking about Club Med, or Club Fed, they called it. And, they'd play golf, they'd play tennis, they'd have good time. Boy, there wasn't a facility I went to that everybody wasn't miserable, couldn't do anything. The only exercise you could do was your own push-ups, sit-ups, and walking or running or in the area. And they didn't really like you running, so you just had to do a fast walk. And so it was, luckily I got out of there after 5 months and was able to rehabilitate myself and get back on parasite cleansing, antifungals, antivirals, to get the toxins out of my body. But anyway, after I got out, I didn't know quite what to do. And Saint Germain appeared to me. He says, I taught you all about the herbs. Open an herb store. And so that's what I did. I opened an herb store and started doing intuitive readings on people because I knew what was wrong with them and I knew what herbs to treat them with. And so that's how I got involved in that business in 2005. Then I've had so many experiences. This whole Egypt thing I'm doing currently, I'm doing the 12 initiations of the initiation temples, the same ones that Jesus went through when he was 9 to 12 years old. Down in Egypt, they have these temples that were built to build the spiritual knowledge of people. And they would teach them before and get them prepped. But the very first temple is the Sun Temple. And the Sun Temple is in the very south of Egypt. And they start, the Nile flows from south to north. So the South Temple, they take you clear up to the South Temple, which is the very top one on the Nile within Egypt. And it was called the Sun Temple because you had to have the light of God with you and get rid of your darkness. And during the initiation, they do things to ensure you've got rid of all the darkness. And they have you drink some ormus, which is a gold, silver, copper remedy. A lot of people just make gold ormus, which is kind of a whitish color. And this is more of a drink they had back then, and they gave you a full cup of it, and it would stimulate your soul, your energy, and make you more aware. And as you go through, he baptized me and gave me the ormus, and then had me stand in front of a gong. And this gong was so loud that if you had any darkness within you, it would pull it out and reveal it. And you go into the shame, blame, and guilt because you have this darkness, and here you are in these temples of light and teachings. And so a lot of people wouldn't make it past that part. And then you'd go to meditate, and you'd have to meditate in that hot Egyptian sun. And I had learned how to bring cooler air, going interdimensionally, and bring cooler air from the other dimensions in so that you'd stay cool. And then, so I passed that test. And then, because a lot of people, they get angry when they're out in the hot heat, and it fries them, and they become angry, and it reveals their darkness. And then they put us in a dark room, and usually all the dark things will come out when there's a dark room. And I just visualized the light and love of God during that whole event and was able to pass that. But anyway, it's interesting because Vicky's doing past life regressions on me, taking me back to when I actually went through these initiation temples back 4,000 years ago. And that's the luck I have. I was put with Vicky because she's the best companion for me, because she does these past life regressions after Dolores Cannon's fashion. And I've learned so much through going through past life regressions, because she loves regressing me, because she asks all her questions when I'm under it too. So she can get answers to her own stuff. But it's been interesting because each week she's taken me to the next temple, and the next one was the Moon Temple, and then the Underworld Temple. And tonight I talked about the Air Temple. And all of these temples, some of them still exist in Egypt, but they're old and artifact. But the Air Temple, they actually built the Temple of Horus right next to it, and they used some of the stuff from the Air Temple to build the Temple of Horus, which was it was sad but it wasn't a very immaculate temple. It was an air temple, so it was open to all the air, and it did have columns around it. But fascinating stuff. And but me and Vicky took a trip to Egypt in 2008, and it was fascinating because when we went in these temples, I could feel the energy. I knew I'd been there sometime in the past, and I loved Egypt. I just fell in love with Egypt. And we got to the Great Pyramids, the last part of our trip, and went into the King's Chamber, and I did toning in there, and everybody joined in with the ooh, ah, all of the sounds of God. And we got so energized that when we went out, we started running around the temples because we just were so energized. We had to get our energy out. And then I remembered a lady was sick on a bus, and on our bus that we came on. And I went in, I said, "Can I give you some energy?" And she said, "Oh, please do." Because she was sick as could be. She was 72 years old and had caught something there at the Nile and was throwing up and had problems and very sick. And I literally touched her head, and I felt this energy come out of my fingers into her head. And she got up out of her seat and pretty much jogged over to the entrance to the Great Pyramid and went down inside. And when she got back out to the bus, she just couldn't thank me enough, because that was her dream, to be able to go down into the Great Pyramid, go into the King's Chamber. And so, we have all these things occur in our life that teach us lessons of compassion and love. And we have to be aware of our surroundings, aware of the people's energy, aware of what's going on with them, so we can assist them, help them, and create good energy around them. This lady's still, she's still happy as can be, and she's still alive. And this has been 2008, so she'd be in her mid 80s now. But it's interesting how we have these things occur, and we are here to learn these lessons. We're here to learn about God's love and use God's love in everything in our life, because if we create anything outside of God's love, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be from God, and it can even cause problems in our lives. So the biggest lesson I'm learning right now is to use God's love in all that I create, in all I think about, in all I do, in all I feel. It's so important that we learn this in this life, because that's what will get us on the path of the ascension. Because the ascension is all about moving into the higher dimension of the fifth dimension. And in order to get there, we have to perfect our love. We have to perfect ourselves, get rid of all the darkness, do our shadow work, do all these things that we've been taught, but we don't really realize the end game is to move us and the rest of the humans into the fifth dimension. And the earth is going to receive its paradisical glory also. And God has a plan for those that want to stay in the third dimension. They brought in, Nibiru, Planet X, whatever you want to call it, that's in the opposite orbit of our planet currently. And it's a perfect planet. It hasn't been tainted like the Earth has with all of the humans that are naughty. And the secret space program is going to transport the good humans to this new third dimensional world that are not ready to go through the ascension. I don't know why anybody would want to go through the ascension myself, because I love the love of God. But there's a place for the good people that want to raise children in 3D bodies and do their thing. And it's a very beautiful planet. And it's here and it's ready. And so anything else you want me to talk about?
Oh, yeah, I did. I wanted you to talk about your experience at Mount Shasta and the receiving of your new heart.
Okay, that wasn't actually Mount Shasta. That was Half Dome.
Yeah.
And what happened was I was going through my divorce back in 2000, 2001. And I was home teaching, which is a Mormon thing where they go and, make sure people are going to church and help encourage them to do the right stuff. And I was home teaching this guy by the name of Jim Hignite, and he had retired 25 years being with the LA Sheriff's Department down in Los Angeles County. And he was an EMT, he had amazing training. And as I was home teaching him, he says, Scott, this year is not going to be as fun. Usually me and a bunch of the guys would go to Yosemite and we hike Half Dome. And they're all going, I think at the time, there was something going on where none of them could get time off. They had to keep work. And so he said, he said that to me. And I said, well, I'll go with you, because I had a dream where my heart would be healed in Yosemite National Park at Half Dome. And I was supposed to hike Half Dome. And he was an expert at hiking Half Dome. And so he said, well, okay, invite your family and we'll go as two families and we'll hike Half Dome together. And he says, but you're going to have to get ready. And I'm like, what do you mean? He says, it's an arduous hike, and I know you're having trouble with your heart, so you got to go out and exercise and get everything ready. So I'd go out and I'd run the track. I was doing everything, and I was having horrible chest pain. And I knew I was going to have the big one, but I didn't know when. So we exercised and everything for a couple of months. I got ready, and then we headed to Half Dome, and we start hiking up the mountain. And my daughter and son came with me, my youngest two from that first marriage, and they were 12 and 14 at the time. And about 2 miles up, my daughter's like complaining, "Oh, Dad, my knee's killing me." And it was her left knee. And I said, "Well, let me look at it." So I looked at it, I put my hands on it. I could see this black goo in there. And I asked, "Where's this black goo coming from?" And it said, "From her mother." And I said to Camille, "Forgive your mother." And she says, "Okay, Dad, what do I need to do?" And I said, "Just say, 'I forgive you, Mom.'" And she did. And instantly white light went into her knee and she made it all the way up the mountain. About 4 miles up, my son started getting pain in his knee. And he says, "Dad, I don't believe in your woo woo. I'm going to go back and play video games at the motorhome." And I said, "Stephen, I want you to go on this hike with me. It's real important you go." And he says, "Dad, just let me go back to the motorhome." And then Camille piped up. She says, "Stephen, my knee's feeling great. If you'll just do what Dad says, you'll be fine." And so Steve's like, "Okay, what do I have to do?" And I said, and I put my hands on his knee, and there was black goo in there. And I heard it was his, anger at his mother. And so I said, "Forgive your mom." And he's like, "Dad, I don't want to do that." And I said, "Well, please just do it and it will heal immediately." And so he did. And immediately a white light went in and his knee healed. And so we kept hiking. And about 2 miles from the top, it was a 9.2-mile hike. And about 2 miles from the top, I started feeling like an elephant was sitting on my chest. I couldn't move my legs. I was having horrible pain going down my left arm, and I knew I was having a heart attack. And Jim looked over at me because he's an EMT, and he says, "Scott, you better lay down. You're having a heart attack. I'll go up and have him send a helicopter up to get you." And so him and my son and his son took off up the mountain, and Camille stayed with me. And Camille says, as I was laying there, I quit breathing and turned purplish blue. And she was worried I was dying. And I heard this voice say, "You need to take your energy back." I'm like, "What do you mean?" And the voice said, "You're giving 65% of your vital force to your wife. And it's not necessary to give any of your energy to any other human beings. You're supposed to use the energy of the higher beings if you're trying to heal somebody or doing something like that." And I said, "Okay, well, what do I do?" And the voice said, "Take your energy back." And I was like, "How do I do that?" And the voice said, "Say, I take back all my energy." And so when I said that in my mind, because I wasn't moving, not breathing, uh, all of a sudden I took a big deep breath, sat up, and I said to Camille, "We need to go tell them not to send the helicopter." Because I did not have insurance, because I believed insurance was putting your mind on disease and getting disease. And I didn't want to get disease. I wanted to stay away from the insurance companies. So anyway, we started running up the mountain. I had more energy than I'd had in 20 years. And it's interesting because I'd been married to my wife for 23 and a half years at the time. And I literally ran up and I grabbed at the top. To get on top of Half Dome, you have to use these cables they've got there to help pull yourself up, and you have to pull yourself up with your arms, literally pulling. And I was going so fast, all the people in the background were going, "Look at that guy go! Let's get him going!" And so they gave me encouragement, and that even made me go faster. And I had so much energy, it was crazy. And I get almost to the top. My friend's coming down. He says, "Scott, how the heck did you get up here?" And I said, "Go tell him I don't need a helicopter. I'm fine." And he was like shaking his head. I got on top, and he was over talking to the ranger. I went over and I said, "I'm fine. Don't send the helicopter." And had my picture taken up on top of Half Dome. But I came to find out that the Elohim Amazonia and Hercules have a sanctuary inside Half Dome. They live in the rock in a higher dimension. And when I found that out, it was amazing because I just thanked them. And they ended up showing up to me and telling me, we're actually not in charge of the heart chakra. We're we're in charge of the blue flame of the voice, but we did give you a new heart. And, it was amazing. I haven't had chest pain in 20 years now, which is amazing. And my heart, whenever I go see a cardiologist, which I don't do, I only did it way back in 2014. I went to a cardiologist. He said, "You got the heart of a 20-year-old." I was like, cool. He couldn't believe it, because he thought he'd find pathology and all kinds of stuff. But does that answer that story? Oh, you're muted. Unmute yourself.
There you go. Yeah. There's several Ross has his hand raised, and I know he's got a couple questions for you. And we have some other people who have asked questions that I'll go back through in the chat. So let me go ahead, Ross.
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much for sharing all the information. So I am really impressed. I'm really impressed. Wow, Scott, you are amazing person. Resonates a lot of the information that you are sharing. So one question I kind of have, it's since you have the Andromedan soul consciousness, and you are really have an expert in what Master Jesus has been teaching and about him. Do you know any insight or any information from the Andromedan perspective you can tell us, about Master Jesus and his relationship to maybe to the Galactic Council or the Andromedan Council?
Well, as you know, the Andromedans were the first creations of God, and their planet was one of the first planets. It wasn't Earth. Earth came along much later. And Jesus has been evolving his soul into the higher dimension. And he's actually in the 10th dimension now with all the Andromedans. And they're all about the pure love consciousness. And they're not very emotional. That we'd say they were the Vulcans of Star Trek. But it's interesting. They have a ship that is parked outside of my house for the last 3 years, and they're always watching over me because 4 years ago the Cabal attacked me and killed me, and so I ended up having another near-death experience, and they're there to protect me now. They're literally, they keep all the bad guys away, which I'm very grateful for. Thank you, guys. But they're here on the planet to assist us. And the Andromedans know that if Earth falls, it's going to create a wave that's going to affect all the humans, even out in the universe, in the multiverse, and possibly even shift the timelines. And the bad guys know they've developed spacecraft, they've reverse engineered, they've shot down the good guys even and reverse engineered their spacecrafts. And they have capacity to go interdimensional, which is not good. And because, if you move into a higher dimension and you're not in the love of God, you can cause a lot of destruction and problems. And so, what happens here on Earth, it's very important for the whole universe, because Earth, we've done more diabolical stuff than any planet ever created. And the humans have gone to extreme lengths to create other things. And we have 7 secret space programs here on planet Earth, and 6 of them aren't very nice. And, there's only one that is actually following God's commandments. The rest of them are just out there profiteering and selling humans and doing all kinds of stuff that isn't in the laws of God. It's not in the laws of the universe. And they're creating this energy that's going out into the universe, creating problems with the whole universe. And so what happens with us humans is very vital for the whole universe. And so we've got a lot of walk-ins coming in trying to help the situation so that we don't shift all the timelines. Now, luckily, we're at the point where God wins. They have this looking glass technology where they could see the outcome of their actions, the bad guys. And they're trying to win at all costs. They don't care. They don't care if they kill off the planet. They just want to win. And now when they're looking through the looking glass technology, there's no scenario they can do to alter what God planned for this planet, which is a good sign, which means we're going to go through the ascension process and everything's going to be good. So just know, even all of these viruses that have been altered, and the latest virus that they're injecting into people that's going to cause transhumanist agenda, it's not going to make it. We're going to be able to stop, and we're going to be able to heal all the humans who've undergone this and bring them back into being good humans and giving them the choice, God's choice, whether to stay in the 3rd dimension or go into the higher dimension. And we are literally clearing out the secret space programs currently out of the higher dimensions, because they've been invading the higher dimensions and collecting information, collecting gems, because in the 5th dimension, we're literally crystallized humans of light, love, and plasma, and crystalline energy. And so they want to use these things for nefarious purposes, and we're actually winning the war in outer space and interdimensionally now. And the outcome is we're going to follow God's. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Anybody else have a question? Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, we have. I will take one from Monty. He wanted to know, and or please let me know if I'm understand this correct. It's, what do you think that's going on in the world right now? And I'm not sure if you want to clarify that, but just overall, Scott, what do you think is going on in the world right now?
Well, right now, it is a transhumanist agenda with the dark side. They want to kill 7 billion of us off, and those that survive, they're actually injecting graphene oxide, which is the black goo they use in these secret space forces to mind control and download stuff into people. And the graphene oxide can self-replicate and become transistors, transponders, receivers, and hook up to the nervous system of the humans it's in, and they can control you through the 5G. And that's what the transhumanist agenda is. The humans who don't die, they want to be able to control just like robots. And so that's the war that's going on right now. And that's why they're out there telling you to take these experimental vaccines and telling you, oh, they're fine, and all this stuff. But if you look at the inserts inside the vaccine boxes, they're blank. There's nothing on them because they're, as an experiment, they're not required to tell you anything except it's experimental. And now they're trying to tell us, everyone, you've all got to take it or you're not going to have any freedoms or rights or anything. And, you know, it's all a part of an agenda to turn humanity into something it was never meant to be. That's just it in a nutshell, to tell you the truth.
Thanks, Scott. Cindy, you got your hand up?
Yeah. Oh, there I am. First of all, Scott, I just want to say thank you for this phenomenal presentation and sharing so much of your story. But not only that, but validating, you know, what I see happening, but making it so that there's hope and that there's, you know, an end and there's something to look forward to, and it's not going to go in the wrong direction, that it's going to get better, because it's, you know, pretty eerie, scary the way things are going with these crazy mandates and people doing things against their will. And well, yeah, I mean, you've said it all and then some, but I most of all wanted to thank you so much for the hope and bringing us to know that really God's plan, you know, it does work and it does bring us back. And thank you. Just thank you. The bottom of my heart, thank you.
Well, you're welcome. And, you know, there's many out there teaching the same thing I am teaching. You know, David Wilcock knows about all this stuff, and you know, many of the secret space program guys that are getting their minds back, their memories back, they're wonderful people. I mean, they've been through hell and back. And, you know, to have them speaking at enlightenment conferences is to me proof that we are winning and that everything is in God's hands. And God is love. And thank goodness for the love of God, because we all need it more than ever right now in our hearts, our minds, and our souls. And we need it to teach us what we haven't learned, you know. I mean, literally, our poor parents started going through stuff, you know, all these wars and things. And our grandparents were going through wars, and, you know, they kept control over humans through the fear and the warmongering and all of the just horrific things that have been going on. And now it's time to focus on the love of God and on the good things that are going to happen. And, you know, I have no doubt in my mind that we are going to go through the ascension. And so that's why I'm teaching about the ascension, to help people know about it and create it in their life. And once we get enough humans, we only need 144 million to be in 51% in the ascension process. And the rest will follow through the 100th monkey, because there's 7 billion humans off of the planet Earth. There's 7.4 billion here. So 1% is 144 million.
Wow.
You know, the 144 shows up in all kinds of stuff in the Bible and in sacred teachings, all kinds of things. And there was 144,000 ascended beings who've come back and come, you know, vibrationally. It's very difficult to come back into this lower vibration, but they came back to help. And they're here, they're helping us. The Arcturians are here, you know, the Pleiadians are here, the good ones. And we've gotten all of the others out of here. I mean, from what I understand, once we cleared Mount Shasta of the reptilians that invaded there, they were going to go invade Venus, because there's a portal in Mount Shasta that goes straight to Venus. That's why the Telos loved being in there. They were forced out about 6 months ago. And we cleared Mount Shasta this last month and got all of the, it was interesting what happened, because Saint Germain literally said, talk to the leader, and if he does not comply, you need to put him in a cylinder of light with the seal of Solomon and the 72 names of God. And we ended up having to do that. And we confined him. And then we told the other reptilians there, it's time to go back to the love of God. And immediately 32 of them, they peeled off the darkness around them and became these beautiful beings of light. And they headed up to the heaven. And the others started seeing this happening, and within 3 hours, all of the other 1,000 reptilians there at Mount Shasta went to the light. And it was so fabulous because the mountain started to shine violet. It was so beautiful, and all the fires stopped. This was the first year, a lot of the geologists thought that Mount Shasta was going to become an active volcano, because it became so hot with the reptilians in there that all the glaciers melted. And that hasn't happened in 60 years. But once that happened, the rain started coming back and the fires got put out. It was, it was just, it was absolutely beautiful. And, be a part of that was amazing. And I'm just trying to be in the right place at the right time where the ascended beings tell me to be. And that's what we all need to do. We all need to get that relationship with these ascended masters, because we're going to ascend and be with them. And we need to get to know them. So it's a very important thing to do.
Immense thank you. Immense thank you. The
You're
hope,
welcome.
especially because you validated so much for me, and you just really nailed down the hope, and that's priceless. So thank you. That God bring.
You're very welcome. And I guess I should mention the DNA, because we were dummied down to only 2 strands of DNA, one from our mother, one from our father, and they come together and make one double helix. And the original humans who came to Earth had 24 strands of DNA in 12 double helix in rope DNA. That's why they could travel in space without, getting damaged from radiation and all the stuff up out in the outer world. But Saint Germain brought a divine invocation to us so that we can create perfected DNA back into our bodies and get rid of the DNA that's been messed with by the viruses, the toxins, and everything else. We can actually create perfected DNA back into our bodies using the divine invocation from Saint Germain. And it's on my website at scottwerner.org. And you just type in all lowercase, no spaces, scottwerner.org, and go to the free download. And if you send me your email, I'll send you the decrees for putting my world in divine order, which is decrees for protection surrounding us. And then I'll send you the archangels that I used to download the 24 strand DNA. Archangels Jophiel, Zaphkiel, and Uriel are the angels that help us create the DNA. The ones from the earth, and Zaphkiel is from our creative chakra, and Jophiel is from God. So we're using God's love, the earth's love energy, and our creative center to recreate perfected DNA. And it works. Everybody I've taught it to who's done it, they have been amazed at how it raises their vibration, raises their intellect, it raises their consciousness. It connects them to the other dimensions, because When we only have 2 strands, we don't have as much of a connection to other dimensions. But when we have 12 strands, we're connected. 12 double helix, we're connected by the telomere. Telo means communication, mirror means dimension. And so we have all this DNA helping us connect to other dimensions. So I highly recommend it for everybody to do.
Yeah, I just want to say real quickly that I've, for 144 days and even beyond, actually for a whole year plus, I did the 12 strand DNA activation. And I can honestly tell you, everything in my life shifted. Everything in my life shifted, and all for the better. And so I do encourage you guys to go to Scott's website, scottwarner.org, download the 12 strand DNA. It doesn't take but a few minutes. Read it every morning. And I'm going to tell you, I guarantee you, your life will change. It was amazing.
It does change.
It does.
And the next step is to do the 48 strands, which perfects you for the 4th dimension. Then do 96 strands, and it perfects you for the 5th dimension. So you're ready for your ascension.
Beautiful. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
Let's see.
Thank you for bringing Scott to our meeting, and thank you, Scott, for this enormously amazing presentation, and bringing back God and letting us know God wins.
Yeah.
Yep. God wins. God wins.
Woohoo! I've got a couple other things, Scott, I want to mention and ask about, but Susie, you have your hand up. Sorry.
I am so sorry I didn't dress up for y'all tonight, but I can't put the camera on. But Scott, first, Sheila, thank you for bringing Scott. But Scott, I have been like doing spirituality balls to the wall for 52 years now. And I'm telling you, you are a breath of fresh air. I am so much more encouraged. And I wasn't going to come tonight. And my guide said, you have got to listen to Scott. And I am so glad that I did. And I want to connect with you. I don't have any questions because you answered so many things for me tonight. And I am so grateful.
Well, if it weren't for Saint Germain and Jesus and all these ascended masters.
Now I got one thing. If you will pray for me, I want my prayers to be as effective as yours. If I pray to Jesus, I want him to show up because I know I want what your effectiveness.
Look at his white folks. They're all smiling.
I tell you, you don't want the lows I was in prior to him coming.
I promise I'll match you lows. So I know that the highs are there.
Have faith and believe and ask and ask and ask until they show up. I started doing mentoring with people 3 years ago because of Saint Germain. And of the 18 people I mentored, 9 of them had ascended beings show up and talk to them and teach them, because I taught them it's persistence. We have to ask and ask and ask. When I was asking about all the toxins, the chemicals, the viruses that were infusing into us and affecting our food, affecting everything about us, I literally prayed for 6 solid months without getting an answer. And finally, Saint Germain showed up with the 24th strand DNA manifestation as to resolve that issue. And so just what persists will start to exist.
Okay, I take that on my heart. My favorite book is by one of I studied with a master, and his book was Persistence, Persistence, Persistence. So I promise I will persist. But oh my God, but you are so amazing, and we're so grateful. Thank you.
Well, I wouldn't be amazing if it hadn't have been for those beautiful beings in the higher dimensions. I'm just a lowly earthling, and believe me, if I hadn't been a walk-in, a good soul, I wouldn't have been able to do what I have done. So just know that we just need to bring that love of God in and obey the commandments and do what's right and be kind, be loving, do selfless service. That's what it's all about. And that brings the godliness into you, and you receive visitations and information and all kinds of stuff.
Thank you, sir. God bless.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Susie.
Okay.
Thank you. Scott, there's a question about, you mentioned the cabal. They want to know more about, you said the cabal killed you and you had a near death.
Yeah,
Can you share that?
the cabal is the bad guys that have made all these plans for planet Earth and all the humans on planet Earth, including their deaths. That is the cabal. They are the evil ones. Most of them are possessed and have been possessed, and their souls left a long time ago, which is sad. But they're the naughty ones, I call them. And when they, Ashtar came to me in 2017. And he said, Scott, a human needs to depossess Kim Jong-un because he's going to start World War III. And I said, okay. And I looked and I saw there was 40 demons that were inside Kim Jong-un, who was the leader of North Korea. And Ashtar says, you know, it does carry risks, but are you willing to do it? And my twin flame I'd met, her name, oh God, it's been a while. But anyway, that doesn't matter. She actually was the one that saw Ashtar, but she couldn't understand him. And since I have the gift of close audience, I tuned in and I heard him talking, and so we decided we'd clear out these demons out of Kim Jong-un because Saint Germain had taught me how to do it. And so I started putting all these demons in cylinders of light with the seal of Solomon, and finally got all 40 of them sealed up. And you seal them up with the seal of Solomon with the 72 names of God until they accept the redemption of God or the love of God, which is the same thing, basically. And it keeps them there until they accept God as their Redeemer or as God's love, and then they are able to come out. But anyway, I came home after doing that. I was really tired, and Vicky was up to a conference in Salt Lake. And all of a sudden, I started getting thrown around my bedroom, just literally lifted off the ground, thrown into one wall, thrown into another wall. Then they threw me against my bed, and I hit this little cyst on this side of my ear that had a parasites and bad bacteria in, and it bursted open inside of my head, and it started going up my head, down into my body, and I ended up with sepsis. And I drove myself to the hospital because I knew I was dying. And you know, I asked all the ascended beings to help me, but there was a lesson I was supposed to learn going through this too. There's always lessons to learn. And I ended up being on the roof above my body, and my heart was still beating fine because that was given to me by the Elohim, Hercules, and Amazonia, and it was beating just fine. And the doctors couldn't believe it, you know, but my mind had left and my soul had left my body. And there was these 5 beings up on the ceiling, and they said, you need to come with us. And they looked like gray aliens, you know, kind of spindly looking with big eyes, but they were golden. And I looked at them and I go, you know, I'm not supposed to go to next dimension without Jesus or my family, somebody I know. And I said, I don't know you. Who are you? And they wouldn't tell me. And all of a sudden, Vicky walked into the room, my wife, and I saw her future pass before me if I didn't go back into my body. And then my two daughters walked in, who were 10 and 12 at the time. And I saw their lives if I didn't get back in my body. So I decided right then and there, I'm going to go back in my body. And these aliens heard me think that. And they said, oh, you don't want to go in that body. That body's dead. And I was like, nope, I'm going back in. So I came back down through the cord, the silver cord, went through and I went back in my body. And sure enough, I was in so much pain and I had multiple organ failure. My glands had failed, my adrenals, my thyroid wasn't working at all. And my pancreas had stopped functioning. So I had type 1 diabetes at the age of 60. And ended up, having to heal. But the neat thing about all of this is, even though I was dead, I knew how to regenerate my organs. And so I started doing that. And over the last 4 years, I've been revamping my body, revamping my system, using the love of God. And to tell you the truth, the love of God has been the biggest thing that has helped me create a more perfected body. And with the teaching of the air temple tonight, that's what we have to do. We have to create everything we do with the pure love of God. And we can't do that without bringing the love of God into us, because we don't even really know what the love of God is until we bring it into our bodies, into our souls, into our minds, into our throats, into our creative center. And then we can create things with purity and with the pure love of God. And that's perfection. And that's what we need to do. And so that's what the cabal is. And believe me or not, I had to ho'oponopono everybody in the cabal. And do all of you know what ho'oponopono is? It's the saying, I love you. I'm sorry what happened between us. And I forgive you. And I forgive myself for any part I had in it. And I am grateful for the experience. You know how hard it is to be grateful for people who kill you? But I've actually done it with the love of God. Because when you get the love of God, you love everybody, even the bad folks. And you forgive them. And you know that, the only thing that's going to help all of us is getting into that pure love of God. Because with that, we can create whatever we desire. Saint Germain talks all the time about telepathy, and I learned telepathy when I was in the secret space forces and all that stuff. So, telepathy is more powerful actually than speaking, because they think it's coming from their own brain because they're hearing it in their brain. And so, when they get that telepathic communication, they believe it's coming from themselves and they listen to it better, which is amazing. So communicate telepathically. Everybody you see, tell them you love them and that you want them to come back into the light and the truth, because that's what God has given us, is the light, the truth. Any other questions? Oh, you're muted again, Sheila.
Yes, there are some questions. And so, Carol, you've had your hand up if you want to go ahead and unmute.
Okay, thank you, Sheila. And thank you so much, Scott, from the bottom of my heart. Right, you've just confirmed. I can relate so much. I mean, what a life you've had. Gosh. Super soldier, walking. I'm just general, I'm not going into details here, but and then your medical experiences, and then the prison. Oh my gosh! And then the herbs, and then Egypt, and then Jesus and Saint Germain. My gosh, I can relate, and you've confirmed so much as well, because, when I go out into the world, so many percentages are not, they're all wrapped up with the way they've been programmed, marriage, school, college, university, marriage, children. Okay, if I give you quickly my life, my conventional life was, I was born in London, England, worked there, and then came to Canada, and I'm holding degrees in counseling, psychology, payroll, and teaching English. I'm retired now, but my unconventional life, that I had a daylight sighting in 1956 with my cousin. And then I came over here, and I've attended all the UFO conventions and most of the speakers. And then in 1980, I had a near-death experience, and I was told to go back. I thought that I had met Jesus. I was in a Christian frame of mind, and I was told to go back and give that out. But the love, the unconditional love, I can relate so much, to what you were saying, right? It went through every cell of my body. My gosh. Yeah. So I was told to go back and give out. And that's what I'm doing. Okay. So right now I'm doing, practicing remote viewing and out of body, and conducting presentations on remote viewing, transcendent levels of consciousness, UFOs, and the near-death experience. So, and raising the level, got to raise the level of consciousness.
Got to raise that level of consciousness.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Scott, thank you so much again.
Well, thank you. You're doing work too. We all need to be doing this work, and we can do it. All we got to do is choose to do it. And God blesses us. We get, things coming in. My bank account has not been empty since I've been on the path of doing the righteousness, the Christ consciousness, and God blesses us. So absolutely, it's very cool.
Threefold. One question was: do we need? What I'm sensing right now is: do we need that trauma in order to shift human consciousness? Or do we need to come through the negative to appreciate the positive?
No.
Okay.
We right now, we just need to go through the goodness and kindness and love of God. We just need to tune into that, and everybody we see, we need to project and telepathically communicate that love of God to them, because they will feel it. And and tell them to wake up to the truth. And they will go, oh, I don't have the truth. Well, maybe I need to look for something else, because they will hear us in their minds. And that's how we wake people up. We telepathically love them and tell them to find the truth. Tell them to wake up to the truth.
Okay. Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you for all you're doing. It's good. It's good.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you. Let's see, Gary, you have your hand up.
Where'd Gary go?
I don't know.
He's on there somewhere.
Yeah, you've met Gary. He'll be back. Let's go ahead and go to Laura.
Go ahead, Laura.
Hi, Scott. Thank you so much. This has been the most exciting meeting I've been to in a long time. I wanted to tell you, I do have a Arcturian connection. I've been told 3 times. I have a future self that's Arcturian, and I believe her name is Athena, not the warring one, but her name's Athena. Just thought that was curious. I'm a contactee as well. A lot of experiences. But anyway, I was wondering, I'm currently doing the ivermectin with my husband, and wondering if there's anything additional with your herbs or vibrational therapy. I know that certain hertz helps break down COVID. Is there anything else we could be doing for ourselves as well as others around us?
Number 1, stay out of shame, blame, guilt, fear, and anxiety. Because they all vibrate to let parasites, fungus, virus into our bodies. and we stay in the higher vibrations, we don't even have anything to worry about. So just stay in the love of God, stay in a positive mode. And if you do have any trouble, start breathing in the love of God, because as soon as you start breathing in the love of God, everything starts shifting. And so, we're all human still. I even have my days where I have to start breathing in the love of God more. So just know, we're all in this together, and that love of God strengthens us and gives us the positive energy of God, the reorganization, perfect organization of God. So it's the most amazing thing to start doing. And that's what I'm preaching now. I'm preaching to people, bring in that love of God into your heart, mind, and soul. Because, when Jesus was asked, what's the greatest law? He said, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, mind, and soul. And the second is like unto it, love thy neighbor as thyself. Well, how in the heck can we love our neighbor if we don't love ourselves? So the way we love ourselves is bringing that love of God back into us, that purity, and forgiving ourselves for all our stuff and just letting it go to God. And as we do that, we raise our vibration and we're able to help others even more. And so, just keep bringing that love of God into you, and you're going to be just fine.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Laura. Let's see. Do we have any other hands raised? Gary, are you back with us? I see him on here twice.
Yeah, he was on
Okay.
here.
Guys,
We've got another question from April. She said, I recently heard that there are 1.6 million walk-ins coming to the earth over the next couple of weeks to assist with what's going on now on the planet. Do you know anything about the truth of this?
As I test, yes, it's true. And I heard it in my head too. And the reason why there are so many non-humans here, and some of them aren't the best, and they need to be replaced. And so, yes, that is a true statement. 1.6 million. Wow, we're all going to be walk-ins pretty soon.
Been there.
Yeah, been there, done that. Want to do it
right.
again.
Very good. Okay, well, thanks. I know Scott came and talked in Avon several years ago and gave these wonderful blessings from the great divine director. And he was giving me a blessing in the house that we were all staying in. And all of a sudden, he started channeling the Arcturians. Do you remember that?
Yes, that was powerful.
Yeah.
I told
so
a lot
he
of things to Sheila that she needed to hear
Yeah, which was
from her
wonderful.
buddies up there in Arcturus.
So I really appreciated that. And I want to open it if other people have any questions to ask, because I do want you to talk about your mentoring program in case people want to get involved with the programs that you offer. And also at the very end, I would love for you to give us a blessing from the divine director, if you would.
Oh, absolutely. Saint Germain, I gave mentoring in the spring, and I always do a group mentoring in the spring and in the fall, because in the summer we're busy with our family and kids and vacations and all kinds of stuff. And in the winter we're busy trying to stay warm. But anyway, Saint Germain came to me after the last the week ending, and told me, you're going to mentor people about the initiation temples. And I'm like, Saint Germain, I don't know anything about the initiation Says, yes, you do. You've been there before, and you actually went through the initiation temples 4,000 years ago. And I'm like, oh, okay. He says, you can get Nikki to regress you and go to each initiation temple and bring the teachings back with you. And so that's what I'm doing currently. Now, if you'd like, for people on this, if you'll send me your email, I'll send you the link to what we've done so far, and the others will show up as they get there. I only have the capacity to do a certain amount with my bandwidth. I'm already at my max, so I record them every week, and usually the next one comes out about, like, I do it on Thursday nights. The next one comes out by Saturday or Sunday. One of them came out on Monday. But I'll send you the link, and you can watch those at your leisure whenever you want. And as they come out, you can watch the next one, And I'm going to leave that up. And because these teachings are very vital for getting ready for the ascension, they're just basic things that I didn't even think about some of these things. And every time I go to one of these initiation temples, it's like my first time there, although I'm remembering what happened to me. And so anyway, so send me your email, and I'll send you the decrees for putting my world in divine order, my email is scott.healthlongevityinc@gmail.com. And just send me a request, and I'll put you on the list, and we will send you the mentoring. Saint Germain wants me to get this information out to everybody. And he also wants me to make a living, but I'm not going to charge. Basically people donate when they sign up, but I want everybody to get this information, because it's really good stuff, and it's vitally important. But the main thing, bring the love of God into your hearts, minds, and souls, so you can love yourself, and then you can go out and love your neighbor. And we're all, he was also asked by that same Pharisee, who's our neighbor? And, currently we're in communication with everybody on the world. So everybody's our neighbor.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to open real quick for final questions. Does anyone have any final questions or comments at all? Okay, Scott, I think you've just blown them away.
Well, we'll give a blessing then. We'll blow you away with the love of God here. So we'll do that right now. In the name of the Almighty, I am that I am, the creator of the omniverse, and by direction of the great divine director, the Holy Spirit of God, to bless all the humans on and off planet Earth. We give you all a blessing. We bless you that you will have the love of God enter into your minds, your hearts, and your souls. That this love will direct you the direction you're supposed to go, and give you the love of God. And it will organize your body. It will heal your body. It will make you a higher dimensional being on this planet at this time. And it will give you hope and love and peace and compassion. We bless each and every one of you that your bodies will heal and be strong and healthy. Your glands, your sinews, your bones, everything in your body, your organs, your systems will function perfectly. We bless you that the strength of the Almighty God will come into your body, and you will have that strength and energy to Go out and love all those around you and telepathically communicate with them with the love of God, and it will bring them back into the love of God. We bless you that you will communicate the truth and not fight with anybody or have discourses, but just telepathically love them and bring them back into the love of God. We bless each and every one of you and thank you for being here tonight and listening, and go out and pray and meditate and bring the love of God into your bodies. Love yourself, forgive yourself. Ho'oponopono, all those around you who have offended you and who you're still having problems with. This method, the Ho'oponopono, corrects all defects in your relationships and actually helps activate the healing within both of you. And you will forgive each other, and you'll be grateful for the experience of each other. We bless you that you'll continue to follow Sheila. She is on her path, and she is an Arcturian warrior who is here to assist with the ascension of the planet. We bless all of you that you will listen to her words and listen to her wisdom. And we bless you all that you will find God and find the love of God being a very pleasant and amazing and loving experience. And we seal these things upon you and seal off the negativity. We bless it that it won't affect you and it won't affect your decisions, that you'll make all decisions with the love of God, and these will be the correct decisions. You will know because they will be filled with love. So be it. In the name of the Almighty, I am that I am. In the name of Yeshua ben Joseph, also known as the Christ consciousness, being that brought love back to the planet. So be it. So be it. God bless you guys. We love you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I love you.
Thank you so much, Scott. And we'd
You're
love to
welcome.
have you back sometime. And we'd love to bring Vicky on and have her to talk and to share as well. So give her a big hug for me.
I certainly will. And thank you, thank you, thank
You
you.
know, I just
Bye-bye.
got I just
Sleep
gotta
with the
say-
angels.
I just got to say, don't leave yet, Scott. I just got to tell you, if I was asked before today who I'd like to be marooned on a desert island with, it was going to be Cindy, but now I think it would be you. You know?
Oh, you'd probably get bored with all my stories after a couple of days.
Oh,
so-
believe me, you can ask anybody on this call. I wouldn't get bored. Listen,
Oh, well,
parties
God
join us.
bless you all, and hopefully we'll be able to go to the
Everybody,
islands again,
next
so
week
we
we've
can
got Jody Sirota.
telepathically communicate
Yeah.
with Hawaii.
I know Manhattan Island. That's the island I'd like to be marooned with you on. We've got Jody Sirota next week, one of my dearest, dearest friends. A heart of pure gold, a very powerful interdimensional channel, wonderful teacher, great soul. You talk about the love of God, man, she's got it in spades, right? I'm sorry I can't show you what I look like. I broke one of my bridges yesterday on a lamb chop, 40 years. I took a lamb chop. So I look like one of these feral cannibals that you see wandering around the Smoky Mountains. But God,
But we still love you.
thank you so
and-
much again. And
Yes, we
God bless
do
you all.
love you.
Oh, you're a good man.
Somebody
Good
asked me
man.
how my
Thank
love
you.
life was.
God
I'll
bless you.
Show it again real quick. Someone asked me how my love life was, and I said, can't complain. Can't complain.
Brandon doesn't do a dang bit of good anyway.
Scott, amazing.
Hey, God bless you.
Hope to
And,
see you
and
again.
Thank
God
you,
bless
Scott.
all of us. And I'll see you soon.
Bye-bye,
Great.
Randy. Thank
you.
you.
Good night,
Sheila.
Scott.
Good night.
Thank you all so much. Thanks everyone for
Sheila,
being
bringing
here.
Scott. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. He was amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That is-
Amazing.
The best we've had yet.
Yes, yes,
Excuse
yes.
me?
So glad you enjoyed him.
Excuse me?
So don't forget.
Thank you, Sheila.
Please. Oh, thank you, Joe. And
Yeah.
Good
don't
night,
forget
everybody.
to check out
Right.
all the Portal to Ascension events coming up.
Yeah.
Yes, yes,
Thank you
yes.
immensely.
Yes. Thank you,
Thank you.
guys. Good to see you
Cindy,
all.
Thank you. That was
God
great.
bless.
I thought
Sheila.
I was the
Bye-bye, bye-bye.
Bye, Phil.
Thank you. Love you.
I
Thank
thought
you,
I was
Sheila.
the
Love you, Lodi.
best.
I love you. Love you too.
Good night, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Look
Thank
forward
you.
to seeing you next week.
Great. Yeah, thank you, Sheila.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Excellent, excellent.
Thank you. Thanks, Sheila.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Awesome.
Phil.
Really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Good night.
Luck, everybody.